you're so excited inside. Will you not read one of those testimonies? Come on, we saw dead people come alive. We heard testimonies. People raised from the place of death. Jesus, we honor you. Jesus, we thank you. We are touched by your sacrifice for us. We open our hearts to you today. May your word minister deeply into us, impacting us, cause us to know you in a deeper way. Amen.
Amen.
Praise the Lord. Please be seated, kids. It's time for Kids Church. Thank you, Kate and the team, for putting on such a moving production. I know many of the people walk with them in the journey. Just to see the breakthrough. See, it's not just a story, it's about real people.
Yeah.
The power of God.
Right.
You can't make that up. You can't act that out. That's something that's real.
Amen.
I want to share with you a message this morning, an Easter message, and over Easter we have a message on the cross and on the resurrection. And what I want to do is I want to share with you one verse about what Jesus did on the cross. I think many times we hear the story and we lose a sense of the incredible impact of what Jesus has done for you and for me. I want to read you a verse, and here it is. It's found in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. And it says, "Therefore, we also, since we're surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily besets us. Let us run with endurance the race that sets before us, looking to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame." And I want to share with you this morning some insights on the shame of the cross. The shame of the cross. So often when we hear the message of the gospel, we hear about sin and the power of sin being broken. I want to share with you another aspect of the cross. The Bible tells us when God created us, the Bible tells us he created us for honor. He created you for honor. He created you for glory. He created man and he created woman so we would walk in honor. When the original man and woman were created by God, they were part of a royal family. They carried a legacy of honor. They weren't nobodies from nowhere. They came from the God of heaven. They were created, they were blessed, they were placed in a place of abundance. Their lives abounded, they were given authority. They were blessed. They were privileged. They were literally surrounded with honor. The Bible tells us in the book of Genesis, it says they were naked, but they were not ashamed. Shame had no place in their life. Why did it have no place? Because the presence of God so filled their lives. There was an innocence, there's a purity, there was a joy, there was a life. That was what God intended us for. Many people, they say, well, what about all the problems in the world? What about the wars and all of the poverty and the various things we see that are going on? How come all of that happens? I'll tell you how come it happened. It's because the children of God betrayed their relationship with him. They chose, instead of a relationship with the God who was the source of honor and glory, they chose a path of independence. They chose a path of going their own way because they believed a lie that God would not meet every need that they had. And in choosing that path, they then lost the honor, lost the glory. The Bible says that when they heard God coming, Genesis 3 and verse 10, it said Adam and Eve hid themselves. And when God spoke to them, Adam said, I was afraid because I was naked. I was ashamed of my condition. So we covered ourselves from one another and we hid from you. And so in the very opening passage of the Bible, we see something powerful. God created us for relationship and to be part of a heavenly community. He created us to be honorable, to live our lives out with purpose and destiny, to carry authority to transform the earth and make it a better place. But when man sinned, when man broke his relationship with his Father in heaven, he then fell. And he didn't just physically fall, he fell to a place of incredibly great shame and dishonor. Instead of walking in blessing and provision, now it was hard work. Now there was pain in childbearing. Now there was sickness. Now there was death. The man that God chose, the woman that God chose to carry His glory and reveal what God is like, now were broken, full of shame. Death entered the world. And you find whenever people have shame, they will then sin. So very soon we find the first murder, and then a history of violence, of abuse, of murder, and of problems in mankind. You see problems in the world, don't blame God. They didn't come from Him. Glory and honor comes from Him.
Amen. Amen.
Love comes from Him.
Yeah.
Good things come from Him. He doesn't bring bad things. See? And so we see the shame that they carried. So what does it mean? Well, now that they were ashamed, well, to feel guilty, or the word guilt. When a person's guilty, it means I have done something wrong. I broke a law. So certainly they were guilty. They had broken and violated a boundary God set, and now they have consequences. How do you recover if you've done something wrong? Very simple. You need to acknowledge what you did wrong and confess it. And then make restitution if you can. And then choose to live differently. That's how you deal with guilt. It's quite easy to deal with guilt. Every person can deal with guilt by themselves. Quite easily. I just need to front up and say, I did wrong. I am sorry. Please forgive me. And we make restitution and put things right. But the issue of shame is completely different. You see, the Bible is full of shame. It's full of people experiencing something God never wanted them to have. It's something that we experience. When a person carries shame, it's not that the message is not I've done something bad. The message they carry in their heart, something is wrong with me. I am the problem. I'm not good enough. I'm not acceptable. I won't be welcomed in the community because there's something in my life is broken. Something in my life is damaged. Something in my life I hate about myself. Something is wrong with me. And so, in the Middle East, and most of the major cultures of the world, honour and shame are a big part of the culture. It's not so noticeable in the West. The West is very individualistic, but you would notice in the Middle East, and particularly in Jesus' time, honour and shame were foundations to the culture. So everyone fought for honour. And if a person was shamed, they were usually shamed by the community as a way of despising and looking down on them and rejecting them, and also as a way of forcing people to conform. So in the culture that Jesus was born into, there was a contest for honour all the time. Every time he met with the Pharisees, their words to him were not inquiries, they were a contest to try and one-up him and put him down so he'd walk away with shame. And every time he overcame them. So in the culture of the Middle East, the culture of Jesus' day, and most of the culture of the world, the word honour and shame have huge significance. People crave honour. You and I, if we were really honest, crave honour. We want to feel valuable. We want to feel as though our life counts for something. We're significant. When a person is honoured, people admire them. They see something in them they like. They want to be with a person who is honourable. But when we experience shame, it's deeply painful. The thing that causes shame, we try and cover. We try and hide. We don't want anyone to see how weak we are, how broken we are, how lacking we are. And here's the thing about shame. Shame is not just personal. In the culture that Jesus was in, shame was communal, social. So if you carried shame, you were disconnected from the community. Let me give you some reasons why people carried shame. People carried shame because of the family they came from. You're born into a poor family, shame on you. See? That's why when Jesus stood up in Luke chapter 4, and he announced, Luke 4:18, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, he's anointed me. The people around in the synagogue said, well, that's wonderful words, but isn't that just the child from Nazareth? Well, his father just a carpenter, a bit of uncertainty about where he came from, when he was born out of wedlock. So they tried to shame him publicly. When you look at Jesus' origins, everything about him, we find he identified with the shame of people. He was born in a hick town, a small town of no significance. It was such a bad reputation. People said, can any good come out of that place? What a dump. It's insignificant. No one of importance could come from there. He was born in a stable, a place of little significance. And we find as we look at Jesus, we see that he identifies with people who carry shame.
Amen.
People were shamed for their family background. People were shamed because they were poor. Poor people were shamed. They carried the shame. In fact, some had to carry a special garment. They said, they're so poor, I've got to bear. So poverty causes people to feel shame. I've prayed with men who felt ashamed as a man because they couldn't provide for their family. It's a deep thing. It's something you want to hide. Because you feel so embarrassed that if it's known, you'll be despised by people. So people are ashamed or carry shame in the culture because of physical disability. So if a person was lame, or if they were blind, or if they were deaf, or if they had leprosy, they carried shame. The community rejected them and isolated them. Even now, when I go over to Asia, I find they hide those people. They keep them out of sight. Handicapped people, intellectually handicapped people, people with disabilities. There's a shame. Usually people look and say, I wonder what the parents did wrong that caused that to happen. There's a deep, deep social shame. Something is wrong with us. I've been with a group of parents, and they were a group, and everyone that had this in common, their children were intellectually lacking, and they carried a tremendous shame as the parents. And someone raised up a ministry to make them welcome and accepted and loved. Amen. This is the heart of God. See, the thing about shame is this: you can't restore your honour yourself. You need someone else who's got a higher status to restore you back into community. Because if a community has shamed and rejected you, only someone of honour and stature can restore you to a place of honour. And that is the dilemma when there's shame. If a community has shamed and rejected us, then someone of honour in that community, that's the only one that can restore you. That's why the prodigal son's father, when the son came back, the community were ready to shame him publicly, disown him, reject him, carry out what they call a katetsa ceremony, and literally reject him from the community as someone who didn't just disgrace himself, disgrace his family in the community. That's why you'll find in the Middle East, even to this day, when someone does something wrong, you brought shame on our family, you brought shame on our people. See, it's a very, very big issue in the Bible and in many, many cultures, this issue of shame. And so the father in the story sacrifices, greatly pays a costly price, and he runs to the son to welcome him and love him and restore his honor. He restored him back into a place of sonship. Jesus' message is, this is the heart of God. It's to restore honor to you. It's to take away your shame and restore honor again. Why do people feel shame? Sexual abuse brings shame. Physical abuse brings shame. Educational failure brings shame. I know many people who struggle with shame because they didn't do well at school. Pastor David showed even if you didn't do too good at school, you can still, it doesn't determine you can still rise above the shame of that. And so there's many things that cause shame. A marriage breakup can bring immense shame. To be a widow was a thing of great shame, single parents. In In Bible times, in Jesus' day, single parents carried shame. To be involved in sexual sin brought shame. To be a prostitute or a drug addict or an alcoholic brought immense shame. It brought social rejection. Not just the pain the person felt of their problem, but they were literally rejected from the community. That's what makes it so amazing. It said Jesus welcomed those who were broken and full of shame, and sat with them and ate with them and fellowship with them. That was why the Pharisees criticized him so much, because he identified with the people who were shamed. The Pharisees looked at Jesus and said, wait a minute, what's this? You're supposed to be a prophet, you're supposed to be a man of God. How come you're mixing with those losers? How come you're mixing with those people? And there were many people in the crowd he was mixing with. Some people can feel shame because of the race that they come from, the color of their skin. It was a practice in those days to despise the Samaritans because of their race. People were despised because they were part of a minority culture. It's hard if you're the majority to understand the deep shame that a minority culture can feel. When their culture is not valued, when their values are not valued, then something else is. It brings shame, it brings a struggle, it brings a tremendous internal difficulty. And Jesus connected with people who were shamed. He did not identify with the shamers. And once he put others down, he identified with those who were shamed. Why? Because the heart of God is to restore honor. He wants to restore them. When Jesus healed people, he didn't just heal them to get them over the physical sickness. He not only dealt with that, he wanted to restore their honor again. So when he met the leper, he didn't just pray for him to be healed. He first of all touched the untouchable. And instead of the curse of leprosy swallowing him up, the goodness and the love and the virtue of God swallowed the leprosy, and the man was healed. He came not only to heal the sick and to deliver the oppressed, but to restore them back into a place of being accepted and valued and honored and restored. That's why he heals. That's why he provides. That's why he blesses your finances. That's why he wants to change your life. That's why he wants to help you. He wants you restored to honor. Amen. You've been abandoned. He understands that. He was abandoned. If you've been rejected and accused and shamed by people, he understands that. So now you begin to see the depth to which Jesus went. So now we begin to look. We see in his ministry, he identified with people that were shamed. And he welcomed them in, and he said, he made them welcome. He said, this is the kingdom of God, makes people welcome. You see, the culture of the day, the religious culture, excluded people. And you were the right kind of person. You didn't wear the right kind of clothes. You didn't do the right kind of things. Well, you were afraid of, oh, you've been divorced. Oh, you've been abused. Oh, so there was like a stigma put on people. And Jesus came to confront that religious legal system.
Amen.
And to show that is not representative of God.
Hallelujah.
Our God loves people and wants to remove their shame and put honor upon them.
Yeah.
Samuel chapter 2, verse 9, Hannah, after she's received the miracle of the baby, cries out, our God raises the beggar and lifts him up, raises them out of the dunghill, out of the ashes, and makes them sit with princes and gives them honor. That's our God.
Amen.
Our God takes people who are broken and full of shame, and he restores them because he can.
Thank you, Jesus.
Does that mean people may accept or value that? Not necessarily, but it doesn't matter. And that brings us now to the cross. It says Jesus despised the shame of the cross. So what was going on at the cross? Well, the Romans had many ways of killing people. And they had many very painful ways of killing people, and some of them were more painful than crucifixion. They had many ways. I won't identify them. But crucifixion was a particular death they chose to bring humiliation and shame on someone. This was a death that was prolonged and public. It wasn't something that happened privately. It wasn't like a private hanging. This was a public shaming. It was a rejection and a disgracing of the person in public. So when we look at what happened to Jesus, there are many, many things in the crucifixion process that were evidences of people shaming him. It says they spat on him. That's shaming him. They beat him around the face and the head. That is shaming him. They whipped him and literally tore his body apart. That is a way of shaming people. Then they stripped off all his clothes, so he was naked in public. That is a way of shaming people. Then they nailed him to a cross. And not just a cross, somewhere where no one would see it. They put this cross up somewhere near the entrance to Jerusalem on a main route where all the crowds coming to Jerusalem, as they walked by, would see this naked, broken figure on the cross and understand that's a criminal that deserved to die. See, now that is the way the culture saw it. But you see, what culture says about you isn't what God says about you. The culture may shout to you, you are broken, you're a failure, you're no good, you're an alcoholic, you're this, you're this, you're this, there's no value in your life. But that is not what God has to say.
Hallelujah.
God sees you differently.
Amen.
He sees you broken and covered in shame, and He says, I want to remove your shame, and I want to put glory on you and honor on you and bring my Spirit to live in you. So what will I do? I will carry your shame.
Amen.
So when Jesus hung on the cross, it says He despised the shame. He looked at everything they did to Him. You may all think this is bad. He said, I know that glory lies on the other side of it. When God looked at Jesus, He looked at Him differently to the way the world saw Him. Everyone went by, they wagged their heads, they wagged their tongues, they abused Him, they mocked Him, they jeered at Him, they ridiculed at Him. And of course, if you were to be a follower of Jesus, well, you're the follower of a disgraced leader, a criminal who hung on the cross. Man, you got a bad start. That's not a good group to belong to. But you see, God sees differently. God saw Jesus didn't get murdered. Jesus gave up His life. That is an honorable, courageous action of a soldier. Soldier in the army of God. Not only that, He gave up His life for you and for me.
Amen.
It's courageous. No greater love has a man than he lays down his life for his friends. So when God looked at Jesus' death on the cross, that is an honorable death because you laid your life down. That is an honorable death because you did it for the sake of others. That's an honorable death because you followed me faithfully even to the point of death. So Jesus despised all the shame because He knew something else was ahead. What motivated Him to do this? And how did God respond? It says, He endured the cross. That means He went through the hardship and never quit. He walked right through it to the end. Why? Because of the joy that was set before Him. What was the joy set before Him? I tell you what the joy was. It's people like you and me, given a new start in life. It's people like you and me, and we're given a new identity. We're brought into the royal family of God. We're brought into a royal inheritance. We're given a destiny.
Amen.
That is what was the joy for Him. The joy for Him was knowing that through history, millions of people would respond to His sacrifice and their shame would be removed and they would have the Spirit of God on them and their honor restored. Of course, the world doesn't always see that. But you see, the world doesn't get the final say. God gets the final say. God gets the final say. So when the world stood around the grave, and there it is, Jesus just died like a criminal, well disgraced, put to shame. That's the end of it all. But God raised Him from the dead and gave Him glory and gave Him honor and gave Him a name above every other name, that at the of Jesus, every knee should bow. So when we look at the cross, we see Jesus took our shame, then was raised by God in glory. Amazing thing. God wants to take your shame. Whatever it is you're carrying that causes you to fear exposure, fear people finding out, to fear being rejected, God wants to heal you, wants to restore you. Jesus was the friend of sinners. They made him welcome. That's what God is like. Don't you get these strange ideas that people have about God being harsh and mean. It's because they don't understand what God was doing. And they ascribe to him something that's not true. God not only created man for honor, but when man reached the relationship with God and became filled with shame, God said, I will take the shame on my son so that honor might come on those who acknowledge him. So then what does it say in Hebrews 12? Here's what it tells us. Since we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. So he's talking about a race. He's using a picture to describe what your Christian life is like. If you've never received Christ, you're not even in the race. Your end is already in sight. So he's saying in the writing to Christians, saying, after talking about all the men of faith, what was there about all the men of faith? They went through terrible times. They went through hard times. They went through difficult times. But God honored them. Having said that, he says, now, get this. We're all in a race. Now, in those days there, they would have literally the big auditorium. They would have the crowd surrounding the runners. And they would watch the race. So if you quit a race, the crowd would jeer at you. They would literally hurl shame. You're a quitter. You're a loser. Even today, the words, you're a loser, carry shame with them. And so if someone got into the race and then quit in the middle of the race, they were booed and jeered by the crowd because they quit. Why do people quit? Well, they quit because of the pain. It's just too difficult. That's why he says, since we have many people of every generation that have gone before us, and they ran their race, and they endured till the end, and they went through hardship, and God has honored them, now let us run our race. And how should we run our race? We should run it in a certain way. Why should we run it? Because there's a prize. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, 24, 25, he said, for all who run the race well, God has planned honor and reward. And so for a believer in Christ, whatever we walk through in life, he is with us. If we will honor him, he will honor us. Jesus said, them that serve me, my Father will honor. So where are you looking for honor? Where are you looking to try and deal with shame? Are you just hiding the things that are broken in your life and looking to try and live so the culture accepts you? So the culture thinks you're great? So the culture thinks you're wise? Or are you living to receive the well done that only God can do? That will last for eternity. So, what should we do? Number one, we should enroll in the race by receiving Christ. John 1:14, whoever received Christ, whoever understood that that work he did on the cross was for me, and I need this. I need to have the power of sin broken and be freed from my shame. I can't do it myself. Only he can do it. Any person who received him, he gave power to become a child of God. I wept today. I just touched thinking about it. Of the people who shared their story, what I was like. Then, after Christ has come, who could not be touched by that? I've been there with many of them to help them with their journey. But it starts when you open your life to Christ. If you're here today and don't know Jesus Christ, do not leave without coming to make a personal response to him. This was for you, he died on the cross. And God honored him by raising him from the dead. You see, that's what upset everyone. It was not that they killed him. It was the fact that God raised him up. You see, you can't raise yourself up. It requires someone else to do it.